Mm, Hello, Namaste, and welcome to Agile Exploration Hub. I am your host Nagesh Deshpande, and we are bringing another episode on Agile Exploration Hub. Today's topic is test automation in Agile. To talk on this topic, we have a special speaker, new speaker, Rajesh Iyer. Rajesh is driving quality excellence and innovation at a product-based organization. Throughout his career, he's transforming QA strategies into a impactful results. So let's welcome Rajesh today. Hi, Rajesh.
Hey, hi, Nagesh.
Hey,
Pleasure to be on this discussion. And I have been following Agile Exploration Hub for quite some time, and it has been a lot of information. And I mean, I have learned a lot from it and used it within my organization, and it has been really helpful. So, yeah, great job, and I'm happy to share my experience in our conversation. Thank you.
awesome. Thanks a lot. Your feedback is really encouraging. It will help us to improve better and do better on that. So, to my audience, Rajesh and me, we met in multiple conferences, meetups, and I also happens to be from QA background, so we connected immediately, and then we have discussed a lot of not just QA thing but also agile things in our discussions. So, in today's topic, we are going to discuss about automation in agile. So normally the standard things that organization follow. Let's see how can we put more light onto that, and how can we change it, how can we bring more value through the automation. So let's get started, Rajesh.
Sure. Yeah. Happy
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, so my first question for the day was like, what was your role, or what role does automation play in maintaining agile teams velocity?
Okay. So I'll first quickly talk about my overall journey, and
Mhm.
then I'll talk about how this particular question is pretty much relevant to my organization right now.
Mm.
So my journey has been from a manual tester to automation, and then I mean I have also explored the other types of testing like performance, all the non-functional tests and all. So my journey is around 20 years. So when I started, I mean there was no concept of agile, right? So
Right.
used to have that waterfall model, V model, and then slowly but surely we got into this agile way of delivering projects. So this has been my journey. So I have seen that complete transition from, the V model, the way we used to have yearly releases, and now we are talking about every week, every month releases, every quarter you have multiple releases. So this is how the software industry has transformed. And I'll give you my own organization's way of delivering things, and it is quite agile. So the last time I checked, the amount of releases that we did in the last week is somewhere around 100. Okay, so when we say 100 releases a week, it's across, let's say, 15 teams
Right.
across the board.
Mm.
So now every team is releasing a new product. So in that, if I have to have a testing team to actually validate the impact of each of, and this is a single product which has different modules, and then you have to include it. So if I have to put in testers to actually do it, it's going to be a tedious job at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, because
Mm.
you will not have release at the same time. It's like you have one team has released, within an hour another team releases. So how do you manage all this, right? So this is one of the challenges that typically you would have in an agile world, where you have releases going on day in and day out, right? So that is where automation comes into play. And automation doesn't have a choice. I mean, we don't have a choice but automation in such scenarios. Right.
Absolutely. Yes.
The other thing, even which makes it a little more complex. So we are talking about, so ours is a financial market research product, in which we have cloud agnostic solution. So we deliver it for different clouds. Then, I mean, it could be GCP, Azure, AWS, which is our primary platform. And then we have billions of documents which needs to be processed. Financial market research, I mean, you get so many sources of documents, and then you have to make sense out of it. So that is what our product is. So based on that, if I have to look at the horizon, the verticals of our product, as well as the depth that we need in order to get the testing going. So automation, it cannot be good to have. It has to be a must have.
Must have, yeah, that's a must have. Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive release strategy, and go to market also is very. So if I say, you are saying that if I are doing weekly 100 release, that means there will be multiple daily release as well. And if you are doing that, it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but very, very, very difficult to do it manually. So you have to have a automated checks throughout this process. Okay, so we'll come back to the point that we both bringing, but we'll come back to that later. Another, so now, going ahead, uh, how do you balance this speed and quality? Because agile sometimes, agile is all about faster delivery, but as well as bringing quality is also important. So how do you balance speed and quality in this agile QA practice?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, because I mean, in the agile world, it sometimes becomes very difficult to manage quality along with the speed at which we deliver.
Mm.
So one of the aspects that I typically would actually recommend, or I started off making a lot of, I mean, I tried to lay a lot of focus on that when I started with the current organization, is that uh, to focus on the basics, getting back to the basics. Okay,
Absolutely.
so the document that I created for that was called Back to the Basics, right? So in that, there are a few questions that you typically should ask when you get into the product development. One is what? What
Mm.
is the product?
Right.
Second is why? Why do we want to build this product? Then the third question typically is how we need to do it. But before that, there is a who, which talks about who is going to use these products, right? So these are the questions with which we start. Now, based on the understanding of these questions, the answers to these questions, you get something that I call as knowns.
Right.
Okay, you have the knowns. Now you write test cases which are going to cover those knowns. Right. So
Mm.
along this period, now we had to brainstorm, like, how can we make sure that the teams, because see, if you have to design a test case, it might look as simple as you get a requirement, you map it to a test case and create a test case. But sometimes that's not really the case. There are I mean, uh, certain nuances which typically gets missed in the requirement,
Absolutely.
because the
Mm.
requirement comes from a product owner. So, I mean, he might also not have that vision, or that particular aspect never gets explored. So for that, there are certain nuances which typically gets missed out in the requirements itself, which would be a good job that a QA could do in order to identify these nuances. So we were brainstorming about it, how to do that. So in that, I mean, credit to one of my colleagues. I would like to take his name, which is Swapnil Pingre,
Mm.
with whom I had actually brainstormed this idea, and then I came up with a ready reckoner, which was called a grooming template.
Mm.
So anytime you get a feature that you need to develop or test, so you create a set of questionnaires, like the same. That is the what, why, how, who, and then the rest of the things follow. And so we had created a grooming template for that. And now I wanted the team to be a little more explorative in terms of getting writing this template, because template sometimes becomes a fill in the blanks, right? So you
Right.
have to just keep on, you just have one question, you answer that question, that's it. I mean, there should be a lot of thought that need to go into it. So that's where I came up with a mind map, which is, a very agile way of thinking. You get multiple paths, you go through it, uh,
Right.
and then you can come up with multiple ideas, testing ideas that you can collate and then build it. So that's where we went. So in that, I mean, we came up with this mind map. So anytime a team member gets a feature to be developed, so he can look at all these aspects, work with the developers. That helps multiple things. They can even schedule their releases accordingly. So if you look at a feature, so it has, let's say, creating a backend. So in that you can have one release where the backend goes in. There might be some updates that you need to do before you actually can deliver this particular feature in the existing features. So all of that can be scheduled in a way that it gets released in a proper order, and then you follow that order. And in this, the contributions of the developer, the product owners also comes into picture. So this becomes a very comprehensive document where you have this grooming template, which becomes a ready reference for the testers to test the application. So this,
Amazing.
yeah. So this is how you can manage the quality, and of course the speed comes from the automation for sure.
Amazing, amazing. So there are a lot of takeaways from this thing. So the first thing first is powerful questions. You should ask powerful questions. 5W1H, you always ask. Be it you are a tester, you are a scrum master, you are a agile coach, whenever the things are coming in front of you, ask these questions. Second thing, collaboration. So, like he mentioned about Swapnil Pingre. Swapnil, I know Swapnil very well. And is doing excellent work in QA industry. But communication, getting idea, brainstorming ideas with your colleagues, getting acknowledgement from them, using their thoughts also to enhance your strategy. Third thing, also important is mind mapping. Mind mapping is very key here. So I may take some time today and we'll share one story, Rajesh, here with our audience. So in World War II, what happened that there were planes were getting attacked by Japanese soldiers. Okay. And now it has to American soldiers or American strategists, they have to you know they have to do the study that what is the attack pattern of Japanese soldiers. So they took all the planes which came back and they mapped it, and they find out that the bullets were hit on these areas, and they found some prominent areas on the plane where the bullet was hit most. And they were about to draw a strategy, but suddenly one engineer came and said that, guys, we are doing a crucial mistake here. Okay, we are looking at a wrong data. We are only looking at the plane which came back. The plane which haven't came back, we don't know where the bullet hit. So
Right.
we have to analyze that data. Based on that, we have to plan our strategy. So, like you mentioned, something which is known, it's fine. But what about the unknowns?
Yeah, that's
So
a
you, for that unknown, you have to write the test cases. For that unknown, you have to plan the test strategy. For that unknown, you have to do the test execution. So known things are good. That is fine. That is not good. So always remember what is unknown there. Ask about it. Ask questions. So this is something recently I heard about this story. It's a true story. So you can learn a lot of things on this one.
right.
Moving ahead.
As yeah, yeah. I just want to add one more point. As for the unknowns, I mean, one of the things that I think is worth mentioning is that we all have a lot of unknowns. I mean, which
Right.
even we cannot comprehend at that given point in time when the feature is getting developed. But once you have the final product in hand, then I mean, one of the schools of thought that I definitely subscribe to is the exploratory testing school of thought, where you have to have a human way of testing things. So a lot of times these this nuances can be developed. In fact, sometimes it becomes more like a new feature that you can add, which you may have not thought about. I mean, I can tell you stories where a lot of times it does happen that I mean somebody has a different way of using the application. which you
Absolutely.
didn't know. You developed it unknowingly, but then it becomes a kind of a feature for you, and then you develop it in that direction as well. So a lot of such things you can balance with exploratory testing. So even though I have the automation way of getting things done, but then exploratory, if you throw it in the mix, I think you can have a very good strategy while when it comes to testing the application and assuring quality.
Great. Yeah, yeah, nice. So now we have this strategy. You explain the, the pre-work that you do for this. But and I would like to understand some of the challenges that you or your team has faced while doing this all automation in this agile environment.
Correct. Yeah. So some of the challenges that I have typically seen is one thing is that since it's agile, it's always rapidly changing. I mean, the requirements keep changing. You have a lot of things that keep on changing, which poses a challenge when it comes to automation,
Mm.
right? I mean, you write a automation script today may not be relevant tomorrow, right? So these are some of the. This is one challenge which I primarily face when it comes to automation in the agile world. The other thing that I see is that the time it takes typically to build your first test script.
Mm.
I mean, this is one of the things which I mean most automation testers would agree is going to be the highest. The reason being you have to build a framework, you have to make sure that you have different ways to manage things, create rules, tools. I mean, integrate it with tools and so on and so forth. So there are so many things that goes into building an automation framework, right? And one thing that I really regret, I mean, even being in this QA fraternity for so long, one thing I regret is that we still don't have something which is as common, I mean, which is a common way of developing automation framework. Like we have the Spring Boots of the world, we have the Django's of the world, we have Ruby on Rails of the world. So those a framework like that which anybody can use, start off and use, and then they can build the script in the first go is something which I have seen that is one of the biggest challenge that I see in the current way the automation is done. I mean, there are people who have their own boilerplates which they carry along. I mean, from one organization to another
Another
organization and so
yes.
on. So that reduces it for sure. But then there is no common language of understanding or discussion that you would have with a developer, with a tester,
Testers, yeah.
like how a developer would say, okay, Spring Boot. So when they
Mm.
say Spring Boot, they can talk about a lot of things which are the aspects of Spring Boots, right? So we don't have any such common vocabulary in place. So that is one of the challenges which I see. The other thing that I typically see is the is automation is typically not treated as part of the release cycle. A
Mm.
lot of times it's after a
After,
release, right?
right.
I mean,
Mm.
after a release, I mean, maybe it might not, I mean, it might be impactful, but then a lot of times I have seen that the impact that it would give when you develop it while the testing happens, I mean, development happens. So that is something which I think would be a little more impactful compared to what you would see after when you do it after any release happens. So that is that is another challenge. And the last but not the least is the tests becoming obsolete. So a lot
Mm.
of times you see 16,000 test suits, I mean test scripts, part of a test suite. You have 10,000, 5,000, and it has been running for let's say a decade, and a lot of those tests are not relevant anymore.
Right. Mm.
Right. So this is one of the things which I think should be an investment from the automation teams to actually reduce the number of tests that you have. So one of the things when I got into this organization was that we had close to about 1,600 odd tests. So then when I did my analysis, I said, okay, this can be covered in not more than 20 scenarios. Maybe the API tests can be more, but not 1600 for sure. It was almost one third or one fourth, if I go by the API numbers. But I mean, the development or the front end scenarios, I mean, I saw that it could be less than even 10 or 15 complete. I'll talk about that in later. But then this is something which you would typically have as a good test suite which has better coverage and quicker feedback. So a lot of times these obsolete test cases are something which I think should does pile up, which needs to be reduced from time to time. So that is something which is missing, I feel, in
Yeah,
the automation. Yeah.
absolutely. Technical debt is a big challenge.
Yeah.
So you as an agilist, you should always look out for the technical debt. You need to plan for it. You need to get rid of that as soon as possible, because the bigger the debt, the bigger the cost to fix or to clear it. So, same goes with the bugs. If the bugs found in the early stage, like you already mentioned, the automation could have should be or must be bring in the development phase itself. It should not be afterthought that okay, now development has been done, let's do automation now. No, because the cost will be increased if you brought it in early stage. Very very great challenges, typical challenges that we can see, a lot of organization are facing. And if you really mm, see any other challenges, to my audience, put it in the comments. If you want more inputs, how to fix these challenges, connect with us. We can have another session with Rajesh to solve these challenges. Now, moving ahead, uh, uh, see this, we always go into this discussion, manual testing, and why is manual testing is dying, or is it required, and all that. But we all know that a human factor is always going to be needed there. Even in the introduction of AI can write you all the test cases, but the human will require. So why, how this human factor will be always needed to do the test automation?
Correct. So, I mean, one of the things that I previously touched upon is about the knowns and the unknowns.
Right.
I mean, your anecdote also talks about the same. So, in that, I mean, if you see the unknowns are some things which a lot of times you won't realize unless you use the product yourself.
Mm,
Right? A lot of times we build it and then that's it. We have delivered it. We have done our testing using the automation scripts and it's done. Or even if we do it following the test cases manually. So I mean that school of or that way of manual testing is something which I don't subscribe to. I would say a lot of focus should be laid upon how smartly you can test.
mm,
Uh, and then how can you uncover a lot of unknowns that exist in the system, right? So these are some of the things where you cannot I mean you cannot foresee it and then do it using automation. Even if I mean we talk about AI a lot, but then who uses AI? It's going to be the humans, right? So the human will the human in the loop will always be the case, right? I mean, it will make things better, but then you will have to learn new skills. You will have to develop new skills. Today, if we talk about manual testing, it's not like writing test cases, executing those tests, and then sending a test report. That is not what I subscribe to as manual testing, right? Manual testing should be a little more exploratory. That's I mean that would be a good use of a human intelligence in this, right?
right.
So that is what I would suggest is one of the things. Then there are failures in automation which you typically have. So I mean, someone said that tests do not uncover bugs. It's the humans who do using the tests. So test is
Mm,
more of a tool, right? So in that you get I mean when you get a bug, you actually it's for the tester to determine whether it is a bug or not, right?
Mhm.
So that's why the human in the loop is there in that. The other thing is exploratory testing, which we talked about, and the other thing is user experience. You can. I mean, there is a lot of science in user experience, and we have a lot of information related to that. But then, having said that, at the end of the day, it again boils down to the user experience that a user might face. That personal touches that you typically see is something which you cannot uh, put a science to it. It's an art, for sure. And for
Right.
that user experience, we will need testers to be a little more human when they are going to test a particular application.
Right. See, this human experience while using the applications, okay, that only a human can explain it, right?
Exactly.
So if I'm using the application and I'm really enjoying it, I will, as a human, I will tend to use it or again. Okay. But if AI doing it, AI go by with the bias hallucination. So I would like to quote a very interesting uh, thing about AI, which our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji said, right? So he went to a conference. He said that if you ask a AI to create an image of a person writing with left hand, AI won't be able to do it. According to AI, that's not a bug. The images which is being created, according to AI, is correct always, because his understanding, AI's understanding is humans write only with the right hand. But when the pictures came out, a human has to, or human was there who said that, oh, this is incorrect. 11:30. Right? I write with my left hand. Okay. So that's how it is. So application, when you are asking AI to do something, maybe for AI it's a normal thing, but the human will tell you whether this is correct or incorrect. A great discussion. Yeah, right. Like, so now, uh, there are a lot of people, so you and me, we are very much active in the QA community. There are a lot of newcomers who comes into this industry. A lot of people are still working, as a functional tester, manual testing and all that. They want to grow up as a automation tester. Some of the key advices that you will like to give them, specifically on automation as well as adopting this agility.
Right. So, I mean, one of the things that worked to my advantage is that I first learned testing before I got into automation. Okay. Some of the people, they did not have that privilege, right? They were good automation. I mean, they were good in coding, so that's why they had automation in that. So the trade uh, in testing, typical. I mean, the trade in QA is first you need to know testing. You should have that. You should build that nerve of testing first
Right.
before you actually get into automation. So a lot of times it has become that compartmentalized, way of approaching. So automation guy gets the test cases. He develops the automation scripts and he's done, right? So this used to be a trend previously. Now we want something called as a full stack QA, or a QA who can test, who can create performance scripts. And a lot of times it does happen that people feel that manual testing is kind of, I mean, I don't want to use that word, but it's a menial work per se. But then that's not the case. I mean, at the end of the day, it all boils down to the quality which only QAs can, I mean, or a human can, I mean, determine, right? So so for testers, what I would typically recommend, who are going to start off as beginners, for them the first thing that they should primarily focus on is to know the product. So it comes back to those four W's and one H, which is the what, why, who, how of the product. So first, that's the first thing that comes into picture. Then for those who have chosen, I mean, I have also experienced this. For those who have chosen to do Manual testing is because either they are not good at coding or they do not like to code,
Right.
right? Uh, or they wanted to get into the managerial aspects of the career and so on. So those were their choices based on that. But then for those people, I would say that, I mean, this is a software development world. Okay, in this, one of the skills has to be coding. So you can start with simple coding, that you can start with a hello world application. Once you write that, you can put multiple challenges to yourself. Like, I mean, how do I say, let's say, hello Nagesh, hello Rajesh. So then in that you will learn a few things. Then you move, you take it one step ahead and say, okay, I want to write a test
Mm.
to actually execute the test. So you can execute the test. So your test case, you just need to execute. So it has to just print the test case that needs to be executed. Next, you say, okay, let's open a browser, try to open it, open my URL. So for that, identify which tools are available. I mean, I don't have any personal choice in terms of whether to use Selenium, Playwright, and both tools have their own places. So keep using them. I mean, and let's not get hung up with which tool is the best. I mean, we don't need to start a war here, but then, yeah, you can actually have a different way of learning these tools. So learn, if you learn one tool, the other tool, I mean, you just have to do a comparative study and you will understand the second tool as well. So this is another one. You pick a language, get some basic understanding of the language, then try to build one scenario where you can actually perform certain operations, validate it. Then you will still see a lot of challenges in that, right? I have 10 test cases. How do I manage those? I have the locators have changed. How do I manage that? I have 100 test cases. Each of them use the same login page, and in the login, the user has gone. I mean, the developer has gone ahead and he has updated the password field to password one, password two. So how do I handle those? So these are
Mm.
some of the challenges that can be thrown at you, and then accordingly you build something called the framework, which then becomes a rule. I mean, you create a set of rules, and that becomes your framework. So framework is
Absolutely.
no rocket science, or there is no. I mean, it's just to make things simpler for you to be able to develop the application. So this is how you can approach as a beginner. But then later on, you need to know why something is built within that agile framework. I mean, automation framework, and then you can then contribute to building such frameworks and all. So that's what I would suggest. That, I mean, take baby steps, and then you can definitely get into a um, good. You can have a good career where testing complemented with your automation skills can take you places.
Absolutely. So I will add what exactly something similar what Rajesh said. So the example which he gave, start with the small program Hello World and try to build incrementally every day. I will recommend. So even if you like to read the books, I will recommend a book called the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. In that book, Naval Ravikant said that if you know coding, leverage that skill of coding and start coding every day. And now, after 5 years, if you code every day for 5 years, check the the amount of code that you have been generated, and now you try to sell that code. Okay, you will be millionaire. So, if you want to become an automation tester, you need not to code for 5 years because your interest will go grow within a month. So it will take hardly 3 months to become a very proficient or very good level of automation tester. So, but the daily practice, throwing challenge at yourself, like Rajesh said, is very key here. Put a very difficult challenge in front of you, how to automate this part of the application. Yeah. So great discussion, Rajesh. Again, let's move on, and then sometimes we over rely on something, automation. So how to avoid this kind of over relying on automation only. We did discussed about now all about automation, but now I don't want to over rely on that.
Yeah, so I would put it this way. I mean, with automation, what are we seeking to do? We
Hmm.
want a quicker feedback,
Right.
right? So while in the process of doing that, it's very important that we change the way we pursue automation. Rather, I would say that I mean it has to change in a sense that a lot of times I have seen that the testing teams have lot of UI tests, right? And then they have the same amount of API tests or even lesser than that, right? Which typically, I mean, they call it ice cream cone or something. But then I believe in the test pyramid way of approach, which Martin Fowler had coined, which talks about how the pyramid of tests should look like, which should start with the unit tests at the very bottom, which will be the bulk of it. Then there will be some API tests or component tests. Then you have an API test, which is the RESTful API or any of those integration tests. And finally, you have a subset of UI tests, right? So normally what happens is when we say automation, the things that come to mind is Playwright, Selenium, so on.
Hmm.
So I mean, you have to have a different perspective now. In
Right.
at least the agile world of automation, we will have to change our strategy a bit. I mean, this could have worked probably if we had talked about the V model or the waterfall model. I mean, during those times, I mean, the way we develop software also was not the same as it is today, right?
Hmm.
So, one of the ways that we will have to look at this entire automation in itself is that you have to have a quicker feedback on that. So one of the rule of thumbs that I typically follow is one thing which I think Srini Kulkarni, who is one of very good dignified speakers. I have been reading his articles and a lot of quotes from him. So one of the rule of thumb that he has given in one of the conferences is uh, you should have at least 10 for every 10 unit tests that you have, you should have at least 4 API tests or component tests. And for every 4 API or component tests, you should have one UI test. So if you are able to maintain this balance, I mean, this is a number which is uh, not, it is an empirical number. It's not something that is okay.
And
The rule of
right.
thumb, not
No.
the exact
Hmm.
number. Okay, but typically, if you follow this, you will have a good balance of your test. One thing is you will get quicker feedback. The other thing is the time it takes for your maintenance of your scripts, because UI tests typically are brittle. UI tests take longer to execute. Okay, and a lot of times, if it fails, there are many unknowns there. Okay, if an API test fails, there are only 2 or 3 unknowns. I mean, not even three, 2 unknowns. One is either the test data is not present or the application is down. There cannot be any other reason unless the application has changed, which is a bug in itself. So for it to fail, I mean, these are the 3 reasons typically that I say. So what I would say is you can rely on automation scripts, but the most important thing here is that it should, I mean, the way you approach automation should change. That's number one. And the other aspect that we have been discussing also is the exploratory testing. So the exploratory testing is one thing which I advocate. I mean, I would have loved to pursue it rather than automation, but I love coding for sure. But then at the same time, the way exploratory testing, that one session, 1 hour of exploratory testing that you typically do, that gives you so much of satisfaction and so much of information that I mean, you would thank yourself for being a tester sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So, guys, read about exploratory testing. So, two things I will recommend to read. So, there is a book by Lisa Crispin, Agile Testing for Teams. So, two things to look out: exploratory testing and the test pyramid. From this book, refer it. read it, try to implement into your agile projects. So Rajesh, now coming to our last question of the day. Yeah. See, all about this moving from manual to automation or working from waterfall to agile, something which is crucial is mindset. Hmm.
Correct.
So can you give few tips to our agilist as well as QA professionals to transform this mindset shift?
Yeah. So the biggest mindset shift here is, first you should know agile means ever changing, right? So I mean, we shouldn't be crying over change in requirements, things getting changed. You know, it's the nature of the approach. Agile approach is expected to say that things will keep changing. It's going to be ever changing environment. So you cannot cry over the fact that, oh, I developed the test script for this and then now the requirement has changed. So I mean, that refactoring aspect should always be there. It should be built into your estimations, in your thought process and everything, right? Then the second aspect which I would say is that we should ensure to introduce automation early on. A lot
Hmm.
of times it is an afterthought, or it is something which you feel that it can lag by a release or a sprint or anything, but that typically defeats the whole purpose of having the automation in the first place. The other thing is building the framework and all should be considered as uh, the runway project rather than doing it at the start of the project. It should be at the runway itself. So when your agile takes off, then at that time it should already be built into your system. Then other thing is, of course, exploratory testing. I have been emphasizing on this fact, and a lot of times this gets little attention, but then I think that is something which should really be things that will help products to actually come up with new features. They can explore new bugs that could
Hmm.
happen in the application. There are things that lot of unknowns can be uncovered in that process. So if you have it at least in each sprint or each week, if you can allocate 1 hour just to do exploratory testing, that would be something which would take your product places. The other most important thing which I would like to emphasize, which is really really important, not just for QA but any field that you go into, is failing forward.
Right.
So the sooner you fail, the sooner I mean, the sooner you learn from it and then move ahead, it's better. So I
Better.
mean, when you take baby steps, you will definitely fail, but then moving forward is the way to go. You can sit back, analyze, and then get the right perspective and then move forward. So failing forward is most important thing in agile. So if you want the product to be perfect before you deliver it, that's not going to happen. A lot of times you will have to deliver the product, look at the feedback, then work ahead. So it's like playing tennis, right? Where you hit a shot, you anticipate the opponent's return. It might
Hmm.
be really good, so in which case you have to adapt. So that is how you will have to improve the entire product in itself. So those are some of my experiences and suggestions that I would share with the teams. Yeah.
Great. Absolutely amazing discussion, Rajesh. Thanks a lot for being such a wonderful speaker today. I would like to say thanks from my side as well as from audience of Agile Exploration Hub for coming and sharing your experience with us. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Nagesh, for giving this opportunity. I mean, lot of things. I mean, being in this industry for so long, I mean, I wanted to share, and then no better platform than this. So thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure always connecting with you, talking to you. Yeah.
great. To my audience, if you really enjoyed this discussion, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.